Well, hey everybody, welcome to English and Women's Studies 2393 honors. It is an Introduction to Writing by Women course, and I am Dr. Litton, and I'm going to be guiding you through sort of an introductory video here, mostly about our syllabus and class policies and things, and going to do this to save a little time, to make sure that we have an opportunity to discuss fundamentals about the class, nuts and bolts kind of things, without using a lot of class time, because our class is a hybrid class. That is to say that it meets one day a week in person, and then we have another class that's online. Now, some people do online classes using Zoom or something like this, and it's synchronous, but we're going to be asynchronous, which means we'll have some parameters, some opportunity for you to get your work done between date X and date Y, but we're not going to meet simultaneously, that is what I'm saying. We won't have a given hour where we're all online together. Give you some flexibility there. But then again, I'm not going to run the course so that you can just kind of do all of your work in advance and try to finish the course and knock it out within a couple of weeks or so. Okay? So if you'll follow along with me, you'll be able to find the syllabus. There's a little bit of confusion on this because I hate Canvas. I will tell you now that I didn't like Blackboard. Now that they replaced Blackboard with Canvas, I hate Canvas even more than Blackboard. Now, I'm sorry, but I do. People joke and say Dr. Litton thinks it's the devil's software. It's close, but it's not quite the devil's software, okay? But it has a lot of quirks, and one of the quirks is that when you give Canvas your syllabus, it wants to reformat it, and it wants to spoon-feed it to students, and it ruins the syllabus and the ability for the student to kind of look at the document as a whole. Anyway, it's more than just a visual thing. They monkey jack with the format of it. And so what I do is I put it into the Files section, okay, which you can find by going down the menu there on the side and looking for files, and it's in there, and you can download it as a Word document, and you can just keep it on your own laptop or whatever you'd like. Okay, so I am going to get my face out of the way, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the class and what it's going to be all about. Okay, there I am up in the top there. If you'll see here, the course is called Introduction to Literature by Women. That means these will all be women writers. There will not be male writers in this because we're looking at this for a reason. We're looking at, a lot of voices that sometimes got overshadowed in years past. I think women writers are probably every bit as prominent as male writers today, but there were times in the past where most of the writers were male and women kind of didn't have much of a chance to get published, or they had a harder time sometimes, right? And so we'll look at that. But this is a course that's dedicated to just looking at women writers, and it's not just about women's issues, but it is about the perspective of women writers on issues. Okay, so I don't want to do this thing that they did years ago, and they said we're going to do women's writers and we're going to talk about women's issues. Well, women's issues are men's issues, and men's issues are women's issues. They're human issues. Okay, that's the way I want to look at this. But these women who were writers may have had particular perspectives based on their experiences as women, and I also want to kind of narrow it down to dealing with American writers. Gosh, you could do anything with this class if you wanted to, but I want to just deal with American writers. I could have dealt with, French writers or, British writers or Russian writers or, Chinese writers or whatever I wanted to. Or I could have picked a theme. So the course lets us look at, whatever we want to look at, as long as we stay within the parameters dedicated to what the course description requires. And you can see that there down below. Well, we've got some required texts. The first one is the Showalter text, the Elaine Showalter text. It should be readily available, certainly in our bookstore, but also online at Amazon or different outlets and whatnot. It's a very popular text. It's called The Vintage Book of American Women Writers. Green cover, easy to find, should be pretty easy. Let's see. This is Dr. Litton's home office, and it's horribly unorganized. But basically, here we go. It's got some writers on the cover there, and it's got a kind of a green background there. Okay, so you should be able to find that pretty readily. The second text is a paperback novel. It's a fairly thin novel. It's a couple hundred years old, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. It's not long, but it's going to take you some reading because people don't write like that anymore. And you're going to say, whoa, what is this? It's called Charlotte Temple is the name of the novel by a writer named Susanna Rosen. Once you get into it, past the first 10 pages, you start picking up on what it is. But it's a very different writing style because people wrote and spoke differently than they do today. But you'll get into the groove of it and you'll pick it up pretty quickly. It's kind of an interesting, fun little novel. Two other novels that we're going to read for the class. One by Toni Morrison is entitled Beloved. I think, frankly, I think it's one of the best novels of the last 50 years for sure. Possibly one of the best American novels. Well, not possibly. I think it is one of the best American novels of the 20th century for sure. And then we're going to read something by Tracy Chevalier, Girl with a Pearl Earring. Now, here's the interesting, fun part about this, okay? The last two novels, one of them, both of them had film versions of them made. And when we get to those novels, we're going to be asking this question: how do we go from something that's in print, which is one artistic medium, fiction, to another artistic medium, film? What are the kinds of things that a person has to do to change the presentation from one artistic medium to another? What are the decisions you have to make? What are some of the things that you have to cut? What do you have to add? What do you have to do? On the one hand, film is great because you can express so much in just a scene. You know, a visual can capture so much, and you can do more, say, with a facial expression or a glance or a body movement than you could in paragraphs of description, right? But on the other hand, most novels are couple hundred pages or more in length, and your average film doesn't go more than about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, until people's butts start getting numb in the seat and they just kind of don't hang with it. We've all been to a really, really lengthy film. It better be good is the way we kind of approach that, right? It's a 3.5 hour film. Oh yeah, well, it better be good, right? And then you got to make sure that you don't get the large soda and sit in the middle of the aisle because people get mad because you get up and walk, to the bathroom all the time, right? At least you do when you're old like me. People are like, again? He's got to go to the game. Well, it's a 3.5 hour movie. We're going to be asking questions like, with those two in particular, Beloved and Girl with a Pearl Earring, film versions were made, and you may like or dislike them. But the general consensus is that the film version of Beloved, while the novel is terrific, wasn't as successful. At least at the time, it was not critically received very well. Whereas Girl with a Pearl Earring was so successful, not necessarily commercially, but artistically, that people didn't even know there was a novel behind it. So we're going to be looking at that, but we're also going to look at things that our writers wrote in the semester, the writers we're reading, that no one made a film version of. And we're going to ask the question, well, if we were to make the film version, what would it be like? What kind of decisions would we have? Everything from casting to scenes to specific scenes to costuming, setting, camera angles, camera movement, musical score, all those kinds of things that you kind of don't think about if you're not a filmmaker. And I'm not a film studies person. I just like film and I appreciate it. It's not an area of study for me formally, but it's an area where I've taken coursework and I'm really interested in it. And we're going to do it like amateurs, okay? But we're going to be looking at it and asking those questions. We're going to look at novels that have been made into film. We're going to critically assess those. We're going to look at works that haven't been made into film. And what if I asked you, hey, if you were to make a film based on this short story, what would it be like? What would you do? And we'll break into some teams to help do that too. It'll be a lot of fun, I think. Well, those are our texts. Some nuts and bolts. Again, my office hours tend to be about an hour or so after the class. That's when I tend to keep office hours. I go from class straight back to work in my office. And one of the reasons I do that is because I often get stopped after class and people are like, hey, wait, don't before you go. But you can also book some time with me. Usually my consultation hours are on Mondays as well. Okay. So that's easy to do. There's our course description there, but the overview of the class, you can read it as well as me, but I'm going to read it anyway. This course offers us an opportunity to explore the writings of female authors from the earliest era of American history up to modern times. I'm going to go roughly chronologically, okay? Unfortunately, throughout much of this nation's history, the profession of author was something that even few men were capable of succeeding at. I mean, it took a couple of hundred years before men were able to make money in America as writers. We'll go into that why and the why of that later on. But for women, there existed either significant social barriers to entry, or they were limited to fairly circumscribed roles. That is not always true, but in general, there were a lot of barriers there. And we'll look at what they were and why did they exist and how did that change and what do things look like today, all those issues. Certainly social, economic, cultural, and racial constraints were at play, and an examination of American women writers becomes an examination in some measure of our own struggles as a nation to come to terms with dreams of equality, justice, and individual fulfillment. So in a way, if you kind of look at, American women writers chronologically, you're also kind of looking at the culture, the society, American society, chronologically, in the way that we had to deal with different issues and things. So I don't want to make this a women's issues class. I want to make it a class about issues and women's perspectives through the avenue of writing first and then film second. I hope that's not too confusing or trying to do too much. The class is going to examine a number of women writers and their works in an effort to chronicle those struggles and to investigate just how and why certain writers gave voice to those experiences. Along the way, it's my hope that you'll be introduced to some new names and ideas, women you may not have heard from, but whose writings are definitely worthy of your consideration. That is probably one of the most fun aspects of teaching this class, because we really don't know, especially 200 years ago. There are a lot of writers that modern students have never heard of that you really should read because they're really great. Either because they've kind of been overlooked in the past, they were sort of marginalized, or they just didn't make the anthology for one reason or another, and that's changing, hopefully. But there are a lot of undiscovered gems that I want to introduce you to, and I think that'll be a fun part of the class. Now, dealing with the format of the class, of course, it's a hybrid class, as I told you. We're going to meet face-to-face on Thursdays, and when you come to the face-to-face meetings, you want to make sure that you've done the reading that is scheduled to be discussed for that class. So if you see a particular short story listed for our Thursday class, that means have that short story read before the class starts. Very important. That's not what you're supposed to read that day, unless you read it in the morning. That particular work, that poem, that part of the novel, that short story, you should have it read before the class starts for that day. Okay, so hopefully that's clear for you. Okay, for online classes, there's going to be a variety of activities ranging from my weekly YouTube lectures. You'll get used to that. You'll see my channel here soon. If you want to explore, this is listed up on my channel as well. I've been doing it this way for years. Love it. And I have a little bit of a following online. I think I have like 250 people who are subscribers to my YouTube channel. Why they would, I have no idea. But if you want to explore, you can see all the other stuff. But this is the main venue because I just feel very comfortable talking to you this way. And then you can go back and, you can rewind. Nobody rewinds, but you can listen to it again. I'm giving away how old I am. But I put those lectures up there on YouTube, and we have Canvas discussions, and there'll be some films that you need to view. And both of these films can be downloaded and viewed, I should say, on Amazon, for example, Amazon Video, or maybe another outlet. If you find one, that's fine with me. The general rule of thumb is that online lessons, lectures, and activities will be posted by midnight on Sunday of the week before the class week. Okay, so by Sunday night, I'm going to post the online material for the first half of next week. You need to have done that. There'll be some dates and deadlines in that material. You'll need to do that the first portion of the week. But I'll have it up before the end of the weekend. You'll need to get it done by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, okay, because our face-to-face class is on Thursday. Hope that's clear to everybody. I'll answer questions in class if I have to. You just got to wrap your head around the timing of it, but you get into a rhythm and you'll figure it out. The general rule of thumb is that stuff is posted by Sunday, and you must complete the online class work by midnight the following Tuesday, Okay. Sometimes I'll give you to Wednesday, but I kind of don't want to let you to go all the way to Wednesday because you got Thursday's class to get ready for, right? So Sunday at midnight, sometimes, listen guys, frequently it'll be up there before then. Okay, I'll try. But at the very least, you'll have all day Monday and all day Tuesday to do the online stuff. Sometimes I'll let you have till Wednesday. It depends. Okay. So be sure to budget your time and get started early. Some online work may take more than one day to complete. It just depends. Now let's take a look here at our assignments and activities and break down the grades here. Quizzes. We're going to have one every time there's a reading. There will be a quiz, whether it's an online class or a face-to-face class. You need to come to class or be prepared to answer your quizzes on the material that is assigned to have been read for that day. Okay. In class, I'll just do a live quiz, paper and pencil. Online, normally it will be somewhere in the lecture. You'll have to find the quiz like an Easter egg, and you'll have to email me your quiz answer by X time and date. Okay, so I might say, here's quiz question number 1. You need to answer this by email. And you'll send all emails to my Yahoo email, okay? And that's just alfredlitton@yahoo.com. I'll try to remember to bring that up in class. But everything goes to my Yahoo. That's because if it gets dumped into my TW account, oh gosh, I get thousands of emails in my TW account. And I'm afraid your stuff will get lost. But that account, that Yahoo account, is separate from all my TW business. And I'm able to like monitor it a lot better. And stuff doesn't get lost in there and get, buried. So Alfred Litton, ALFRED, yeah, that's my real first name. I don't go by it, but that's my real first name. alfredlitton@yahoo.com is where you'll send your quizzes. I'll put a reminder in our first couple of lectures online, but you want to listen to the whole lecture because I'll put these little Easter egg quiz questions in there, and I'll say something like, okay, by Tuesday at midnight, I need your quiz question answers to my alfredlitton@yahoo.com email. Okay. And I may open by saying there'll be 2 or there'll be 3 quiz questions in this lecture. Find them, okay? Find them and answer them. And that way it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you watching the whole video. By the way, I have the ability with a YouTube channel and with a YouTube posting to see how many people watch the video and how much of the video the average person watches. There's nothing worse than waiting to see somebody or looking at it and having someone noticing that right after the last quiz question is presented, then the viewership drops off. Okay, watch the whole video for each lecture because you're going to need to because of the midterm and the final exam. By the way, participation in class, which includes your class discussions online, small group activities, online activities and things like that, 10%. And then you've got the midterm, which is worth 20%. We'll have 2 short response papers. Response papers are you and the text or texts. No research involved in that. I don't want you to do research for these papers. I don't want you to consult any outside sources. I just want you to tell me what your thoughts are on the prompt that I provide for you regarding the text or texts that I'm asking you to examine. We're going to have a screenplay assignment. This is where we're going to work with a small group and you guys are going to brainstorm and tell the rest of us if you were to make a film version of this particular work that we've read, about which there's been no film version, what would it look like? Okay? It won't be the whole film, don't worry. It'll be like a scene or 2. And then the comprehensive final exam, again, that the benefit of having my lectures on YouTube is you can go back and review those. But you certainly, for the final exam and the midterm exam, you want to watch the whole lectures, believe me. If you want to take your chances, go ahead. But I'm going to give you information there that that you're not going to find online. Okay, so all the due dates are listed in the schedule below, and I do not accept late work unless there is a valid documented reason for doing so, and usually that is only medical. So please don't say, oh, I've got this going on, or I've got, my cousin's, orthodontist's wedding to go to. Work ahead. If you were hit by a bus on the way to submitting the paper, we'll talk. Okay. Other than that, I need you to turn everything in on time, which may mean working ahead. Okay. So here are some class policies and procedures. Absences more than 2 in a hybrid class where we're only meeting once a week, more than 2 is excessive and will result in an appropriate grade penalty. So I'll knock it down a little bit. If you have to leave early or come late, and I mean by significant margins, then I would count that as a half absence. Again, if you've got a documented reason for having to be late or come early, or leave early or come late, then we'll talk about that. Don't worry about that. I'm talking about people who are chronically late by significant periods of time. If you miss the first several minutes of the class, the live face-to-face class, you're going to miss the quiz, okay? So definitely don't want to miss that, okay? Food and drink. I don't mind if you drink something, but if you start chowing down on some Popeye's chicken and I haven't had lunch, I'm going to probably take a drumstick or something, okay? So don't do that, right? You just make all of us hungry, maybe even hangry. I don't know. Make sure you turn your cell phones off and put them on vibrate or whatever you need to do, okay? If you've got some sort of emergency where you really need to have it on, then put it on vibrate. And I do not allow the use of laptops in class without prior authorization. Why? Because I know what people are really doing on their laptops. You can use a pen, take some notes, but when we're all looking at each other and discussing together, it's just so much more dynamic than if you're looking at a screen and just typing away. But, you know, I know that most of my students are not typing notes when they're using their laptops, because all I have to do is walk to the back of the class and everybody starts flipping their laptops down, okay? Just do it the old-fashioned way. I know I'm old and I like the old-fashioned way, but there's something to be said for writing things down with a pen and paper and talking to each other face-to-face. It's not a bad thing to do, okay? Participation, come prepared to discuss. I need you to volunteer your thoughts. The class won't work well if I'm the only one talking. Okay, so I'll be asking questions, and don't be shy. You know, some people will say there's no such thing as a bad question or a dumb question. Well, that's not true. But I don't think any of you are going to ask a dumb question. Okay, I mean there are dumb questions like, you know, should I stick my hand in this wood chipper? That's kind of a dumb question. Yeah, you shouldn't do it. Should I roughhouse with a dog that has rabies? Yeah, it's a dumb question. Other than that, folks, there aren't any others. Okay, so I don't want you to be intimidated. I don't want you to be like, oh, I'm too shy to ask anything or talk or volunteer my ideas. I want to hear your thoughts. I really do. It's going to be boring if I'm the only one talking. Civility. I don't have to lecture you on that. You're all adults. We treat each other with kindness and with love and with respect. If I ever make a joke and it makes you uncomfortable, sorry. Life's about being uncomfortable, though, sometimes. I try not to do anything that's unkind. That's the guiding principle, is never to be unkind to anybody, intentionally, okay? Always give each other the benefit of the doubt. When you think, well, this person said something, and I think that she was being mean, ask yourself, well, could I have misunderstood it, okay? But if you have pure motives, right? Even if you make mistakes, you're an okay person in my book. Okay? I'll try to do the same. The rest of the stuff on the syllabus is crap politicians make us put in there. Look at this garbage. I shouldn't say garbage, should I? Well, some of it is. Learning outcomes. Like you care about the learning outcomes. This is politicians in Austin who say these communist professors up there, we can't trust them. What are they doing? Explain what you're doing. So we do. And I do it. Okay. I'm not a communist. Learning outcomes. There they are. Core objectives. Well, we're supposed to put that in there. You can read that if you really, really, really want to know about the philosophy behind the core curriculum at TWU. You can do it. COVID stuff. I don't think COVID is what it was a year ago or 2 years ago. Thank the Lord. But there it is. There's all the COVID stuff. By the way, these are their recommendations, not mine. I'm required to put it in the syllabus. I'm not telling you to go get vaccinated or not get vaccinated. They just make me drop it in there. Okay, you do what you need to do. Disability access policy statement. This is probably the one thing I'm glad they do make us put in there. One of the two things. Because if you have a disability and it's a documented disability and you need assistance, I'm more than willing to help you about that. I've been helping students before the law required me to. Okay, so just work with me. We'll figure out what's fair. I'm all about wanting to make sure you succeed. And then the other thing that I think is probably worthwhile, even though they probably could condense it a little bit here, is Title IX information. There's sexual violence education that they want you to know about, and what your rights are and what your duties are when it comes to Title IX sorts of things. Just remember, this is always and everywhere the case, that if you share Title IX information with a faculty or staff member, any employee, we are required to report that you did so. We are not required, nor are we allowed to compromise your private information. But if you come to a faculty or staff member and say, I was discriminated against, I was sexually harassed, I was assaulted, we're not allowed under the law not to report it. Now, we do it with utmost discretion, okay? But we have to do that. I'm not trying to say that to keep you from doing that. I'm trying to tell you that you have rights, but we also have responsibilities, and we take those very seriously. Pregnant and parenting students, gee, you sometimes run into those folks, right? Moms-to-be, parenting students, dads-to-be, possibly, right? You have rights in terms of pregnancy accommodation, and gosh, once again, if it's not a matter of you having to exert your right, it's a matter of you letting me know, and we'll work together on it, I promise. Academic integrity, that's pretty important. The one thing you need to know is that if you cheat at all in an honors class just once, you're completely out of the honors program. There is no probation, there is no parole, there is no second chance. One and done. Okay, so you don't want to do it. You can't cheat very easily in this class anyway without me noticing. Been doing this for years. I know what cheating looks like, and I know how to spot it. So you don't want to do it. It's too risky to do. It's not worth it. You'll probably do better on your own. I was the kind of student who I never cheated on somebody else because I looked around the room and said, none of these people are as smart as I am. My hubris, therefore, kept me out of a lot of trouble, I guess, right? Because I had a massive ego, I never cheated. I guess that's one reason. The other thing is it was just easier to do the work than it was to cheat. I'll be honest with you. It's just so much easier. And you feel guilty afterwards. All right. So that's the stuff there. Here's our class schedule. Just want to reiterate this. Make sure you complete the assigned readings before the class day. Okay, for our online classes, other than this introductory class, video lectures, discussion posts, quizzes should be completed by the following Tuesday at midnight generally. Unless I tell you you have more time, try to get it done by then. If the text is not listed separately, it's from this book, right? This book right here. If it's not listed separately, it's from this book. This is our main book here with a couple of novels on the side. So you'll see here that I'm posting this finally today. I'm sorry, I was out of town for a death in the family, and I thought I was going to get this up much earlier, but I didn't get a chance to. But you can watch this here today, the day I'm posting it, or the day our first face-to-face class. If you need to catch up, I'm fine with that. So we're doing that. On Thursday, September 1st, we're going to do introductions. We're going to go around the room, find out who all's in the room, and that'll take a little bit of time, and that buys you time to do our first reading assignment, which you need to have done by September. Oops, I'm off a little bit. I'm going to have to make a change to this. By September 8th, we'll do. I'm going to move some things up for you. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to have to change this. So I'll reiterate that in class. But our first set of readings is going to be Anne Bradstreet, and then Mary Rowlandson and Phyllis Wheatley. And then we'll dive into the novel Charlotte Temple, and you can see how this progresses and goes all the way. And all of the major dates with assignments, our midterm exam is on the 13th, the final exam is on the 15th, our reader responses are going to be due on certain dates, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it gives you an opportunity there to work ahead. I wouldn't work ahead too much, because if you read a lot of stuff and then you stop reading and then it's weeks before you start discussing it, you'll have forgotten what you read. So not the best idea. Anyway, so I am available. I will work with you in any way that I can to help you succeed in the class. I'm excited about you being in here. I'm excited for you guys on our first day of class, September 1st, to get to know each other. Hope you make some friends. Hope you meet some really, really interesting people. And then we'll be having a successful class. And I'm looking forward to it. All right. So once you finish watching this video, just dig into the first set of readings if you want to, and read a little bit ahead, maybe a week ahead. It's not a bad idea. And then we'll see you in class. Bye bye.